We're also joined now in our studios by Andrij Dobriansky, Executive Board Member of the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America. Andrij, based on what Albina just said, I mean, should Putin have expected anything different besides a cold shoulder going to the G20 summit?
Well, he also sent this large warship fleet down to show his power. That's not really a friendly thing to do with a G20 meeting. So he's been doing a number of things that have been completely unexpected and not really friendly. Not only the warships towards Australia, sending planes and rocket launchers that can fire off nuclear missiles onto territory of Ukraine.
And fire jets over Europe.
Yes, and then the jets also over the Gulf of Mexico that he's planning to do. So there's a number of things he's doing that's not friendly to the rest of the world.
But Andrij, isn't there an argument for him being included in the G20 summit? I mean, he kind of like showed up to a party he wasn't invited to, but the reality of it is, isn't it important to kind of hear what's going on from his perspective there?
I don't know how to answer that. Putin is a KGB officer who worked in East Germany with the Stasi. I mean, he has a long criminal past. He has a long history of not only murdering journalists, but murdering members of the Russian parliament. So his entire career has been based on fear and intimidation, and frankly should be investigated as opposed to being included in a club of world leaders. So for me, in my perspective, I see him more of the Kim Jong-un or the leader of a rogue state like Iran, as opposed to being somebody who is a player on the world stage willing to play together.
But by being there, he gave these countries, like Obama had some harsh words for him, and now gets to say it to his face.
Yes.
I mean, doesn't that hold him more accountable by having him there?
Oh, yes, but I don't see a change in his tactics right now. Frankly, just yesterday, he had rough words for France, saying that he's giving them until the end of the month for them to deliver the warships that Russia paid for. The rest of NATO is very much against this. So there are harsh words going back and forth. But not only was Obama harsh, but especially the Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper, telling him to his face, you should get out of Ukraine. The Prime Minister of Australia. So the G7 leaders, of which he is now not part of the G8, he has been kicked out of that crew. Those people are giving him a hard time, and that's to be expected.
So with all these harsh words, why isn't he listening?
Putin is implementing a very unconventional means of warfare. It's something that other Western leaders and world leaders aren't prepared to deal with. It's very asymmetrical, very much using propaganda war and putting things out. Just 2 days ago, they put out a laughable Photoshop version of what happened with MH17 in advance of Australia. These pictures clearly were not the plane, clearly were not the satellite images, and yet they've been pushed on Russian media exclusively. So his method of warfare, whether it's doing things that's on the ground that's not expected, or doing these propaganda campaigns, is not something that other world leaders have solved how to deal with, basically.
But as we consider how to deal with it moving forward, you mentioned that there had not been a change in tactics. Do you think the call between Kerry and Lavrov made any difference?
I don't think so. I think they've been having calls throughout the entire period of the conflict. What's really going to make a difference is building up the Ukrainian army. Every time the Ukrainian army improves, the Russian army has to reevaluate its tactics. And really the thing is about getting some better supplies for that army. And the only way to do that is with Western support. It's with Obama changing his mind and allowing some defensive methods to be, weapons to be sent over. Lethal weapons, but they must be defensive. Anti-tank weapons, better armored personnel carriers for the soldiers. Right now, the Ukrainian army is using tanks which are outdated in comparison to the over 100 tanks that Russia has sent over into the Ukrainian territory.
Well, it sounds like there's still a lot of re-evaluation to be done on this world stage. Andrij Dobriansky, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Maureen.
This morning. Always a pleasure to have you with us.